Hey, boys and girls. Um, I am getting ready to crimp a shaft or crimp shooting line onto a shaft. This is something that is absolutely critical. I mean, you're making the connection between the gun and the shaft is what's connected to the fish. So it kind of pays to do it right. Um, so I'm going to kind of take you through my quick and dirty process on how I do this. I don't know. I rig a couple thousand guns a year, I think, with all the different people that come in and bring me stuff. And all I know is I go through 2 miles of line in a year. So, and if you can see right back there, there's a mile. There was a mile of line on there. I think now, I don't know. Maybe I got 3,000 feet left. But this is 300-pound monofilament. On my personal guns, I use either 200 or 250. But I pay very close attention to any chafing or damage to the shooting line, and we always have extra shooting line on board the boat just in case a fish takes me into the rocks, because you do want to change it if that happens. But make sure you buy the right size crimps. If you're using 300-pound monofilament, I think it's 2.0 millimeters, and this is a 2.2 millimeter crimp. If you use a 1.8, it's not going to go in. If you use a 2.6, it's way too big and you're not actually going to get a good crimp. The other key to good crimps is a good set of pliers. And if you look closely at these pliers, you can see they got little numbers on them for, what is it, 2.2, yeah, 2.2, 1 to 2 millimeter, 0.5 to 0.1, or I'm sorry, 0.1 to 0.5. So you got several. And then these are actually cutters, so you can cut the line. The problem with that is that it leaves kind of a little collar on there. So I always use a set of flush cuts. I always kind of cut it at an angle. I don't know if you guys can see that real well, but we've got a little bit of an angle. The first thing you do is you're going to put the crimp onto your shooting line, and now I'm going to move you guys in here so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so you'll notice a couple things. I got a lighter, got my crimping tools. That's really all I need here. So the crimp's already on, and I'm just going to go through and give myself a little bit of room to work with. Now, I've got the tag end of the shooting line. I'm just going to hit it with the torch for a second and get it to kind of roll or mushroom over. So now we have a little bit of a mushroom on there. The only reason I'm doing that is so that I can get it right snug against the crimp and not have it pop out. It won't accidentally come out or potentially go inside the collar of the crimp. So there are some guys out there that claim that this will make your shooting line stronger. I don't really know about that. But what I do know is it helps me get a better crimp, because as you can see, I'm just pushing this thing back and forth and I can't pull it back through. So anyway, we're just going to take it and work it. I like about 3/4 of an inch because I want it to be able to slide down as it shoots, and I want it to lay between my tabs, if at all possible, when the gun's fired. So right about there. I also want it to be able to move freely. All right, so what we're going to do is now we are going to crimp, and I'm just going to put this up behind it so that you can kind of see what we have going on here. I think you can see that. The neck of the crimp is not quite inside the pliers. So you want it sticking out just a tiny bit. So you're going to crimp it, and then you're going to do, you can see I've only crimped half of it so far. So now I'm going to crimp the other half, and I'm going to make sure that I look at it. So you can see I've got a little bit sticking out. Crimp it, and there we go. If I crimp it all the way on the end, there's a chance that I could push that crimp into the wire. I'm going to do this up close so you guys can see what I'm doing. Remember what I was saying about having a nice clean end? Okay, so this is the end that's going to the gun. This will be the end that will be pulled up against here in a second. So I'm simply going to round this, give it a little heat with the torch, get it to kind of round over. You see there we got a little bit of a ball, and it takes about 10 seconds or so for this thing to get hard again. It's still, I can feel it. There we go. So now I can bring that crimp right to the very end of the line, and I cannot pull it through. As you can see, I'm sitting here pulling on it, and it will not come through there. So, sorry guys, it was a little low on there. But it will not come through. So now I can adjust the size of my loop to whatever size I want. We're going to take our crimping pliers, and let's see here. I think you can see I've got a little bit sticking out. We're just going to crimp it as hard as I can, because these things will stop me from over crimping. And then on the other side, I want to do about the same. And give it a good squeeze. Now, where are we at? There we go. So that's, shit. It's so hard to do. Move things one way or the other. Okay, so you can see now I've got a crimp, and it's pretty uniform. I've got, you know, like a little barrel in the middle, but that is basically it. So that's what you want your crimp to look like. If you crimp it too far down on the end, I'm going to do it on this side. If I was to crimp it all the way down here, there's a chance that I could push the metal into the crimp itself. And of course, no bueno, because you're going to lose a fish. But crimping 101. All right. I'm going to back you guys out just a wee bit. Now I always do a double wrap. Well, I don't always do a double wrap, but when I do, it's the best double wrap you're ever going to get. Okay, so we're going to go around and down and come back. Oh, crap. Of course, everything wants to fight me because we're doing this on video. Couldn't have done that 100 times. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we've got our line laid out, and it's pretty tight. And what I want to do now is I want to stretch our bungee a little bit, and I don't want to stretch it much. You can see we're right here. In fact, I'm going to put a post-it note on here for where the bungee's sitting, just so that you can kind of see what I got going on here. So the bungee's sitting right there relaxed. So I want to go past it about ½ an inch or so. Of course I moved it, because why wouldn't I? Shit. There we go. Okay, so we're just gonna move this about 3/4 of an inch to an inch past it. We don't want to go too far because we don't want to put too much pressure on our cord here. In fact, if I move you guys to the center and down, I think you'll be able to see this a little bit better. All right, so our post-it note's about lined up, not quite, with when the bungee's relaxed. So I'm going to go out about an inch past it. I'm going to mark that on my shooting line, and I got the shooting line pulled pretty tight right now. This is what I want. So we're going to mark that, and I'm just going to bend it. I'm going to pinch it at that bend. Now it's going to give me, that's where the apex of my loop is going to be. I'm going to come back. I'm going to give myself about 1.5 inches. I'll put this under it. It might be easier to see. Give myself about 1.5 inches or so. You can do any length you want, because I'm going to trim this in a minute. So do that to get it on. Now I'm going to pull this real tight, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and cut this off right about there. Now we're going to do the same little torch technique that I did a second ago, where I'm going to flame it, give myself a mushroom, wait for it to cool off. Pre-COVID, I'd be sticking these in my mouth and, you know, slobbering all over your shooting line. These days, I still do that. I just won't tell you that I do it. Okay, there we go. That's a small loop. Just give this a quick crimp. I'm just going to put my needle nose pliers in here and flare this a little. Voila. How's that? So that's our loop that will then go into our clip. And of course it's going to fight me because I'm doing it on video. Anytime you do something on video, everything goes wrong. See? Post-it notes flying around. Gun's completely unrigged. The other time that nothing goes right is right after you miss a fish. Right after you miss a fish, you can guarantee that the world is going to turn to shit and you are going to be soggy toilet paper. Of course, you're caught on there. All right, now in order to get the shooting line to go over top of the line release, what we're going to do is we're going to pull on our bungee here. So I'm pulling the bungee, I'm going to loop it around, and there we go. Nice and set. So a couple issues with loops and crimps and things like that. Like I said, if you crimp too close to the edge, you don't get a nice little flare. Hey boys and girls, I'm going to take a second or two and plug a couple of products that we have. We have a shooting line kit with some crimps in it. This is a 30-foot shooting line setup with 300-pound black monofilament, and we also have crimping pliers. You can use pretty much any set of dikes, wire cutters, line cutters. It really doesn't matter what you use, but you can cut this fairly easy. I also recommend a lighter of some kind. For those of you that are crackheads, you might recognize these. But anyway, you're looking at about $35 for this, and you're looking at about $15 for this.